Right, y'all, what's going on, man? Welcome back to the Truth of Najeh Wilkins, man. Hope y'all are having a great night, man. So look, it's a late night special. I know I usually have the show earlier in the day. It's been having a lot going on, man. Just life stuff, you know what I'm saying? But I want to supply y'all, man. I want to give y'all the material y'all want to see. This not gonna be as long of a show. I usually do about an hour. This one gonna be about 30 minutes, and I usually go through biggest headlines and stuff like that. But we're just gonna break down the matchups, man. It's always this content always does well with the fans and people that support me. So appreciate all the supporters and stuff, man. But we're gonna spend about 30 to 35 minutes, man, just breaking down some of the biggest matchups. I'm gonna get my thoughts, get my analysis, man, and we're gonna do it just like that. And hopefully, like I said, next week we should be back to normal schedule, but we will see, man. Taking it day by day. It's the best thing I can tell you. Taking it day by day. All right, let's go and get into it, man. So let's do Clemson and Louisville. Big time matchup. To stand to say the least, man. Not for Clemson. Clemson is struggling this year. They're trying to get bowl eligible, right? Now, obviously, they're 4-5. So 3 games left in the regular season. They gotta win, obviously, 2 more games to get the bowl eligibility. And Dabo has already kind of said, like, okay, hey, we're playing for the seniors, right? The year didn't necessarily go how Clemson wanted. They were supposed to be a top team in the ACC. This is supposed to be the year they won a national championship. There was a lot of talk preseason about this team winning a natty, maybe even going undefeated, this year and winning a national championship. All that's been thrown out the window, right? It just let it spiral out of control after that Georgia Tech loss when they suffered the second loss of the season early, losing to LSU and obviously losing to Tech. It just spiraled out of control. That Syracuse game was really the nail in the coffin for them, and their chances, obviously, to make playoffs or anything like that. And they struggled against SMU, what I'm saying, as well. So team is struggling, or not SMU, I'm sorry, that was Duke. He got 46 points against Duke. My bad, y'all. But team is struggling. Peter Woods and TJ Parker, they have combined for 5 sacks this year. They're not having necessarily the year that they're supposed to be having as well. Kate Klubnik has regressed some, as a quarterback for Clemson this year as well. Adam Randall has been pretty good in the backfield. We know about Sammy Brown on the defensive side of the ball. He leads them in tackles with 67. But it's a different animal in Louisville. But Louisville's already shown, even at home against California with a prolific offense and Jerron Kiwi, Sakabatule, and Jacob De Jesus and Kendrick Raphael, that they're susceptible a little bit. Now, defense played a pretty good game. They did give up that late touchdown to De Jesus, which was a walk-off. But the offense struggled. And I told y'all for years, like, I don't believe in Miller Moss. If Miller Moss was that guy, he wouldn't have lost the USC job, right? So I don't believe in him. And I think for Louisville, you got to keep it simple. You got to run the football, right? Get it to your playmaker, one of them probably the best receivers in college football, and Chris Bell. And you have to lean on that in this game and make it easily and simplified a little bit for Moss. Now, obviously, you got some good backs at Louisville. Louisville, I don't know what they do. Duke Watson, you look at, obviously, I know Isaac Brown, I think he went down with an injury. You got Keywan Brown, who's one of the top rushers here in Atlanta in 2A a few years ago for South Atlanta. Lean on him. I will lean on the running game a little bit if I'm Louisville, in this game, and then let that set up the play action. You got to get Miller Moss in a rhythm. And what I'm saying, in my humble opinion, if you could do that, if you're Louisville, you feel pretty good. What I'm saying? Now, that's easier said than done, but it's a sneaky game, right? Friday night, I don't know what it is in the ACC. It's a freaky night, right? Like, 'cause remember, Louisville beat number 2 Miami at the time on a Friday night. So Louisville's going to have to come out prepared. What I'm saying? It would not surprise me if Clemson came in there and they're just playing for pride at that point, right? They're not playing for anything special. They're not playing for a bowl. They're not playing for, a chance to make a CFP, right? They're playing for pride and for the seniors and things like that. Would not surprise me if Clemson came in there and they was able to beat Louisville, and this is effectively a playoff game for the Cardinals, right? You lose this, you're out, right? You've already seen how disrespected the ACC is, right? We talked about that in my last video. They're not valuing the conference, right? They do have 5 teams ranked. We know Miami, Georgia Tech, Virginia, Louisville, Pittsburgh. But nobody's in the top 12. Nobody's even close to the top 10, which shows you that out of those 5 conference champions, 7 at-large bids, ACC is likely not getting one. You have to win your conference. What I'm saying? They don't value the schedule enough. So big game for Louisville. And you have to win out and hope that even at 10-2 that you can get in. 3 games left, big game between both teams. Louisville should be able to pull this out, but if they sleep on Clemson can go there and hit them in the mouth, right? Remember, this team is still filled with NFL level talent. So you play around with it if you want to. You mess around and find out, right? But I think Louisville should get the edge. I think this game is going to be closer than people think. I'm going Louisville, slight edge, 27-24. I think Keywan Brown and their running backs have a good game and able to do what they need to do and pull it out just enough over Clemson. But don't be shocked if Clemson is able to come in here and pull an upset. You know what I'm saying? Do not be shocked. Remember, there's NFL level talent on this roster. But nonetheless, I'm still rolling with Louisville 27-24 dub. All right, y'all. So that is the first game we're going to do Friday night special, as I just did and obviously alluded to, man. Let's get into this one. I'm only going to do like some of the best games, right? Now, this is a big one, y'all. Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, right? Two, I would say, good teams. A lot of people feel like, okay, Notre Dame shouldn't be ranked that high. The committee's overdoing it. I feel y'all. You know what I'm saying? I know what y'all saying, but they lost to Miami and Texas A&M. Texas A&M is one of the best teams in the country, right? Not a no for a reason. Several signature wins on their schedule. They got Texas coming up. Texas A&M is a really good football team, right? Now, what I don't like and what I'm worried about in this game, if Pitt is able to come out and win this game, like I feel like the win would get devalued to me. Humbly, I do. I feel like this would be a devalued win because it's like, oh, well, Notre Dame's a 3-loss independent team. That win doesn't really matter, right? Now, I don't know the severity of how much it would even help Pitt, right? Maybe they move up to 18, maybe they move up to 17. And we've already had their, obviously, head coach came in and was like, and I'm paraphrasing, this game doesn't really matter, right? He's more so focused on the ACC, essentially, right? And I get it. Like, their thing is we got 2 more ACC games against 2 of the best teams we think probably in conference, even though Miami is out of the race for potentially ACC championship, 6% chance to win, right? Pittsburgh's like, let's keep our focus on that because if they win both of those games, right, they're likely going to be into the ACC championship game, which gets you a chance at an auto bid. You know what I'm saying? Gets you a chance at an auto bid. So I definitely get that sentiment. I understand it, but this is also big in terms of playoffs. Because think about this: if you're Pitt, if you win this game, you go to 8-2, right? Obviously, your losses in conference play. But if you're Pittsburgh, everything is in front of you. You got on the road Georgia Tech. That amplifies that game even more. And then next week, that following week, Miami has to come to your place. You know what I'm saying? So you got 3 big games coming up that you could potentially kind of spearhead yourself into a CFP conversation. At a 10-2 with those 3 wins, potentially, not saying it will happen, but potentially, that's going to get you into a CFP, I think, at 10-2. You're undeniable at that point. You beat 3 really good teams. You know what I'm saying? So a lot on the line for them, right? Is Mason Heistro, is he ready for this moment, right? This is a big team. Notre Dame is good. They can run that football with Jeremiah Love, right? CJ Carr's continue to get better. You know what I'm saying? As a redshirt freshman, they have Jadarian Price as well. Malachi Fields, right? Faison. Defenses continue to get better and better week in and week out. And a well-coached football team, So coming to this game, they're going to be prepared. They are going to be ready to go, right? So if you're Pittsburgh, really good linebackers, for 4 quarters, can you slow down a Jeremiah Love? That's easier said than done. It don't take him much to pop one, right? Even in the game they struggled against Boston College, he popped one for a long game, right? 95 yards, turns the game on his head, right? There's going to be moments like that. Can Pittsburgh do enough, to win that game and to slow him down? Easier said than done, man. But I like Heistro. I think he's been having a good year. True freshman phenom. He's been balling out. He's been doing what he's supposed to do. And they have Desmond Reed, all-purpose back that does a little bit of everything. Catches it out of the backfield, runs routes, running between the tackles, explosive player, really good football team. But for the love of the ACC, and again, I'm not biased. Like I said, I am a true Miami Hurricanes fan. I just felt it was unfair, as I said yesterday in my soliloquy, that they were ranked above Georgia Tech, right? But nonetheless, I'll say it. I am an ACC homer. I do like to see the ACC do well and get the respect because when I was younger, ACC was good, right? And I feel like there's a lot of parity in the conference, but it's not getting as respected as other conferences. I respect the hell out of the SEC. Big Ten is cool. You know what I'm saying? I know they got more dollars going there. Big Ten, I feel like, is always top heavy, but it doesn't get that same level of disrespect as other conferences. And I like the Big 12 too. I do humbly. But I feel like the ACC is just so slept on, and I don't feel like they get the respect that they deserve. Like, they're a trash conference when they're not, right? Is it an SEC? No. You know what I'm saying? But you can't tell me some teams in the ACC can't knock off Big Ten teams, right? You can't tell me ACC teams can't knock off Big 12 teams, right? That's just my point. And I'm not saying – I'm talking about the rest of the conference. I'm not talking about Ohio State. I'm not talking about Indiana. I'm not talking about Oregon, right? But you telling me outside of those 3, they can't go beat Michigan. They can't go beat a USC, right? They can't go beat a Northwestern or Penn State. Yes. I'm strictly disregarding the 3. So when I say that, I love to see them get their credit. So for that reason, I'm going with Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh can come out on top and win this game, and it should help them. We'll see to what degree that does, because even a win could harm them a little bit in terms of just, Notre Dame will be effectively knocked out of the college football playoff. They're not making it with 3 losses, humbly. Um, but how much would that win actually factor into the ACC being looked at different? I don't know. But I'm going Pittsburgh. I think they come out on top, get a big time victory, man. 8-2, and it heightens that game against Georgia Tech, especially if they're 9-1 on the year. A must see game that I think if they win, that game will probably be on ABC. Must watch TV between 2 elite ACC teams. But we'll find out. I'm going Pittsburgh, however. All right, let's keep rolling. Hit a couple more big games. All right, this is a big one right here. USF obviously versus Navy, right? And USF is favored. Now Navy's coming off some tough losses. Now Blake Horvath did not play last week. You know what I'm saying, for them, they lost to Notre Dame. But remember, they're still in the driver's seat in that American Conference. That's kind of jumbled up a little bit, right? Several good teams: Tulane, Memphis, all really good teams, right? You got Byron Brown. He's been having a good year for them so far on the ground. Throwing the football, 19 touchdowns, passing 9, rushing, 705 yards, right? Over 3,000 or close to 3,000 yards of all-purpose, for him. Horvath, same thing, right? He does a little bit of everything. So this is going to be an interesting chess match, right? Like, can Horvath go, for one? What's the severity of his injury, 2? And then 3, if he can he produce the game-like numbers he's been able to produce the last few seasons, essentially? It's going to be interesting, right? And it's going to be a tackling machine like Harris. Harris leads them with 75. Can you, for 4 quarters, slow down either quarterback? And again, I'm doing a hypothetical if Horvath plays, right? Can you slow down either quarterback? And then can you be disciplined enough when you put those 8 or 9 in the box, when Byron Brown wants to go over the top, that you don't get beat? So it's a massive game because USF is ranked, right? And they have a legit argument to get into a CFP playoff, right? With signature wins this year, right? It lost to teams they weren't supposed to lose to, like UTSA, but they have big signature wins like over Memphis and others that can really help them out, right? So this will be another one, right? You go give Navy their 3rd loss, 2nd loss in the American Conference, and you keep trekking forward. And I think, like I said, if this team wins, they'll get a CFP playoff if they finish the season and win their final 3 games. Very important game in the American Conference, right? And this will jumble up even more if Navy is able to win this game. So if USF, your playoff life's on the line, you got a head coach that's getting a lot of college interest in Alec Golish. So it's going to be important you come out on top, become sharp, ready, and making sure that you allow Brown to do his thing offensively and you slow down Horvath if he plays. But I'm going USF. This game will be a lot closer than people think. I got a shootout, though. 34-31 victory for USF over Navy. So I'm rolling with, obviously, that one. All right, let's keep it rolling. This is the full schedule. So I'll make sure I don't miss any of the good ones. I'm not doing Michigan Northwestern. Nope, no way, no how. All right, man. We're gonna do this one right here, man. Big game in the SEC, man. Effectively a playoff eliminator. Hate to say it for Oklahoma. Like, they lose this, it's a wrap, right? And how about Ty Simpson, man? It's the year he's been having. You know what I'm saying? Definitely a Heisman candidate. Everybody said that Fernando Mendoza had his Heisman moment last week against Penn State. Shout out to him. A game they struggled in, he was able to make the throws. He was able to do what he was supposed to do to help his team out, right? For Mendoza. But I think Ty Simpson equally is as important, right? Bama wouldn't be where they're at without him, right? Now, defense has been good, led by LT Overton. You got Dejon Lee stepping up and getting better and better, throughout the year, right? Really good linebackers as well. And I love how Alabama didn't allow that Florida State loss to sink them, right? They learned from it. Everybody was against them, was talking crap about them, and they're figuring it out, right? Ryan Williams is playing a little bit better, a little more consistent. Jeremy Nard has been really good this year for them. Isaiah Horton's starting to kind of come on a little bit. They got Jan Miller in the backfield, right? Like, they got pieces to be really good, this year. And they're a deep team. I don't really see Bama really losing the rest of the year. They handled business. And it was an ugly win last week against LSU, 20-9. Offense wasn't as crisp as it usually is. But when you got a quarterback and Ty Simpson that can play in the big games, right? He performs at a high level. He's a leader. And he doesn't do too much with the ball. And he's not putting it in harm's way all the time. That helps you out a lot. And that's why this Alabama team is very important. Now, for Oklahoma, right? I do like their metal a little bit, right? In terms of you faced adversity, you've been able to come overcome some things, and you kept yourself relevant, right? Remember, at one point, this team was number one in total defense, right? It was one of the top defenses in forcing sacks, right? 7 sack, I think, performance against Auburn earlier this year, right? Um, they're playing well. What I'm nervous about is the team offensively has not looked as good as it should be, in my humble opinion, since Material's returned back from the injury. Right? They've struggled. He struggled some too with the 7 interceptions. Remember, at one point in the year, y'all, he was considered a Heisman candidate. Right? He was considered in that race. Right? He's kind of regressed some since the injury, kind of forcing the ball a little bit, doing a little bit too much. And outside of him, like they don't really have that good of a running game. No disrespect to Blaylock, he's been rushing it well, but far too often Mateer has been that leading rusher for them. He's been that guy that's had to carry that mantle. When you play in Bama, you can't do that, right? We've seen a previous team try to do that in Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia. They shut it down, right? They shut it down and they made it tough for him. And they had 8-9 in the box. And they was like, okay, we're gonna make you try to beat us with our elite DBs. And it didn't work. So if you Oklahoma, you're gonna have to figure out a way to attack, Alabama and figure out a way to attack their DBs and being able not to put so much on job material because you might get them banged up in this one, against that really aggressive Alabama defense. So I think for Oklahoma to have a chance, they need to get a special teams touchdown, early start, fast start to this game, and somehow try to affect Ty Simpson defensively. Now, look, they're more than capable. They got guys on that defensive line that's really good, right? You look at obviously Thomas this year with 6.5 sacks. They got guys on that defensive line that can affect Ty Simpson and make it tough and muddy things up. But at the same time, they're going to have to be able to find a little bit more from the running game if they want a chance to be able to control this game. Because Alabama, you give them a chance. They're a quick fire offense, right? They can get down the field quickly and make big plays. So it's going to be important. They kind of try to milk the clock some, control the game. That's not really Oklahoma's MO, which scares me a little bit, which is why I'm rolling with Alabama. Big victory. I think they beat Oklahoma 31-14. I just don't think Oklahoma has enough offensively. Stegner's been having a good year, but they don't have enough of a running game to keep the ball away from Alabama and make it tough for them. So I think Alabama rolls, man, and they go 7-0 SEC play, man. 8-1 on the season with only a couple of games left. I'm going with the Crimson Tide. All right, let's keep rolling. All right, let's do ACC. Obviously, big game I'll be covering, man. But real quick, Georgia Tech, Boston College, right? A game that has a lot of familiarity, right? Remember, Coach Key was a part of the Alabama staff. Bill O'Brien, Kirby, several other guys that was in that staff at the time with all those, elite coaches and being able to win at a high level, right? So he obviously respects that man as well at a high level, and really cherishes like with the things he learned from him, right? Before he even got on his story, he talked about Bill O'Brien being kind of a GA assistant for him and toting him and his mom around and stuff like that. So this relationship spans back decades. So a very strong liking of both one another and also a very strong respect. Now they've obviously respected Boston College and said this is a team. Don't be confused by the record, right? And I agree with them. Like you can't be confused by the record. It's a team that can make things, dangerous for you. And I think it starts with the quarterback Lonergan. He's underrated in terms of dual threat ability. But he's a guy like if he can get hot and get in a rhythm, he can be tough, right? He can be tough to kind of slow down, right? Now, obviously, Richard's having a good year, 506 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. So they're gonna have to try to find a way to, slow that down, right? And the big message that Coach Key has said, sealing the edge, not containing, but sealing, right? And I think it starts with playing some of them young guys, right? Manley's there. Obviously, you have, JMO, you got Jordan Boyd, you got several other guys, but you got to set and contain that edge. I like Bradford. I like Andre Fuller. Use some of them young guys that can tackle really well in space to set and contain that edge, when you play Boston College, right? And it's don't get beat for the big plays down the field. They've struggled with that a little bit, Boston College has with big plays down the field, right? Don't allow them to hit those big plays and tackle well in space. That's the big thing. Georgia Tech has struggled with their run defenses a little bit this year. Hasn't been the same, and I think part of that is just not having enough penetration, right? Sometimes you'll see when you watch their film like that, running backs able to get to that second level without even being touched. Now, I like Akilo Stone and him being back healthy. I like Jordan Vandenberg, who's very underrated defensive lineman. But sometimes you need guys like on that edge to just be disruptive, make plays and do that. And that's why I think they need to play some of the younger guys. Give them guys a chance to be able to grind and show what they can do, and I think it'll help you out in the long run. But that's some of the keys to the game, in my humble opinion. For Georgia Tech, offense is good, right? Put up 500 yards of offense, 408 passing yards from Haynes King. You know what I'm saying? Multiple touchdowns in the game. They ball, right? You just need your defense to get stops. And I think a lot of people didn't consider, like, Georgia Tech wasn't fully healthy going against NC State. And neither was NC State. They didn't have Justin Jolly, and they didn't have, obviously, Hollywood Smothers. But Georgia Tech didn't have John Gilmore, right? No Savion Riley. They didn't have Amari Harvey, right? They were missing a lot of guys. That makes a difference because John Gilmore is that Swiss Army knife that can do a little bit of everything for you. He can play the star position. He can blitz. He can cover. He can tackle well in open space. Last game, 11 tackles, 2 passes defense, and a half sack. Dude is for real. I believe you will get that back this week. We'll get the full injury report tomorrow, which we'll know for certain what's going to happen. I think the defense should be a lot better. This team is pissed off. They're angry. They're upset with how they play, and they want to show it on the field. So I think they're going to bring their own. I think it's going to be BYOE, bring your own energy. I think you will see that from Georgia Tech in this game. And I think, quiet as it kept, they don't care about the CFP rankings or nothing like that. But I think quiet as it kept, I think somebody, I won't say somebody, but I think all I'm going to say is they know. I definitely believe they know about the standings and where they rank. And Georgia Tech can control their own destiny. Now, it'd be a travesty if they go 11-1 or 12-1 and they don't make the college football playoff. I don't think that happens, especially if they go and beat Georgia. So they control their own destiny. You handle your business against Boston College. Prep for the big game against Pittsburgh, which likely will be ACC huddle. Should be ESPN College game day, but we'll find out. We'll see for certain what happens. Massive game between those two next week. Handle your business this week against BC. Handle your business against Pittsburgh. Pretty much punch your ticket to an ACC championship game and do what you got to do that following week against Georgia in that clean off fashion heat. So I think in this one of the guys I highlighted was Malik Rutherford. I want to see him get back involved, dealing with a little bit of an injury a little bit. He should be able to be full go in this one, in my humble opinion. I don't know for certain. We'll know for certain tomorrow. But he should be ready to go in this game for them and get the running attack going a little bit more. We know about Malachi Hosey, but we need to see Jamal Haynes get back to the level that he was playing at. This team don't play as good when they're not as well balanced. King can do it. He's the leading rusher this year, 754 yards, 14 touchdowns. But at the same time, you need Haynes to start getting going too. If you got Haynes, you got Hosey, them two were going and they stack in the box. King can light them up, passing the ball. With Rutherford back, likely Isaiah Canyon. We'll see the role that Jordan Allen has moving forward. You got the pieces on the outside. Your tight ends are really good and underrated. Josh Beatham, Brett Seether, Luke Harpring, right? You got the pieces in order to do damage. Now Georgia Tech has to continue to do that and be the team they're supposed to be, which I think they will. Defense plays better, man. I got a 31-10 victory for Georgia Tech. I think they dominate and they beat Boston College. Now let me know who y'all got rolling in this game. All right, so there is that one. All right, let's hit this one. Another big ACC game. Virginia and Duke, it's massive, right? Because, for Virginia, like, they got to handle their business. Another team that's not going to really get the benefit of the doubt, unfortunately. And it sucks because last week you lost to Wake Forest. You didn't have your quarterback. Defense played really well, only allowed 64 passing yards to Robbie Ashford and Purdy, and only 6 points off of turnovers. And you had 3 of them, right? So defense did what they were supposed to do in that game. Offense couldn't get it going. And you let up a special teams touchdown to Carlos Hernandez. You just can't have it, right? But Virginia defense is so good, it keeps them in games. But now the biggest question we got to find out from the official availability report on Thursday night at 8 p.m. is if Chandler Morris is playing, right? Because that's where it all starts and stops for them. They have Daniel Kalen, but if he can't go, if Morris, I ain't saying Kalen can't do it, but the offense ain't the same, right? Now, Jamari Taylor got to do a better job of holding on to the football. He only had 1 fumble in the game, but still, you can't have that. And he was on pace to have a 100-yard game again, which would have been back-to-back for him. He's had a pretty good season. Second leading rusher in the ACC, second leading rusher in terms of touchdowns this year as well. So you need the well-balanced attack, right? We know about Harris. We know about, obviously, Jamal Edgerrin, right? We know about Cam Ross. You got the pieces, in order to do damage against Duke. A defense that's susceptible. They gave 37 up 37 points last week to UConn, right? A game that Duke shouldn't have lost, but they gave up 37 points, right? So this defense is susceptible. And if you Virginia, you have to know that going in, which control the game, control the clock, lean on Taylor, and hopefully Morris is back in order to kind of help lead you. But Duke can put up points with some of the best of them. This is a top scoring offense in the ACC, right? This is a top scoring offense in the country. So this team puts up points over, I think, more than 36 or close to 36 points per game. So you have to be ready for that. Darian Mensah is the real deal. That kid is explosive. That kid knows how to find his reads, knows how to look through progressions, and that might be one of the steals. I know they paid $4 million in NIL dollars for him from Tulane, but you're seeing that Tulane can produce guys, right? Tulane can develop guys to be ready for the next level, right? So for Duke, it starts with obviously, um, Darian Mensah, can Nate Shepard going, who's your true freshman. Cooper Bakart is obviously really good on the outside, but your defense can't stop anybody. But you have to hope for some turnovers in this game and get out to a fast start if you're the Blue Devils. If you want to upset Virginia on obviously Saturday. And you would effectively end their season. I hate to say that. 2 losses, you'd be like, Nas, what are you talking about? I think their season would be effectively done. You'd be 8-3 at that point, 5-2 in the ACC. I don't think there's any chance you get into a CFP or even into a ACC championship game. It would be very, 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 very hard in order to do that. It have to be a lot of losses to swing your way. So big game for Virginia. I believe in Cam Ross. Devin Neal's having a phenomenal year. Had 8 tackles last game. Cam Robinson had 10. They got Jason Brevard, who's been having a pretty good year on the defensive side of the ball. Corey Costner's continuing to step up as a true freshman. And Daniel Reichert leads them in obviously sacks this year with 5.5. They got the pieces. But as I talked about in my Virginia article, you got to be able to pressure Darian Mensah. If you sit back there and allow him to call his girlfriend, call his grandma, he gonna slice and dice you and torch you. So it's gonna be important Virginia gets pressure and makes him feel uncomfortable. If not, it's gonna be a long day. But I got Virginia. I think they rebound. I think Chandler Moore should be back in the lineup and they should be able to roll against Duke. So I'm going with the Cavs. All right, y'all. A couple more before we end off the show. Let's see. No, I don't want to talk Ole Miss, Florida. All right. Look at a couple more. It ain't too good of a slate this week. All right, I guess we'll do one more SEC if I get to the final one. All right, man. So final game, man. Or second to last game. Florida versus Ole Miss, man. Ole Miss been balling, man. I told y'all about QB1. Nobody wanted to believe me, man. I told y'all on my TikTok channel. Hey, I said, yo, you play Trinidad Champions QB1. You see what happens, and you see this team is balling, and they're playing at a high level this year, man. So Ole Miss is the real deal. And a lot of the reason is they was running with Austin Simmons, and you see Trinidad Chambers has been playing well. Yes, he came from a D2 school, but he's gotten better and better, man, every single week, and he's playing at a high level. And it's unfortunate for Florida because this is supposed to be the year they take a step forward. They did have one of the hardest schedules, but DJ Lagway has regressed. You know what I'm saying? He has regressed mightily. 12 interceptions this year, and he got benched last week for Tramel Jones, right? And we know how good their running back is. We know how good Jaden Ball is. Nearly 1,000 yards, 747. But it's just this should have been a better year. You have Vernon Brown III, Dallas Wilson before he went down, Eugene Wilson, and a very competent defense, I would say. A defense that makes plays, right? Caleb Banks. You have pieces on that defense that's elite, but they can never get the play calling going. They can never get the offense playing at a high level. In a disappointing season. They did fire Billy Napier and move on. But now it's like, what's next? And the next coach might not want Lagway as the quarterback. Can he fix Lagway as a quarterback? I don't know. Remember, this was the Gatorade Player of the Year from Willis, Texas. I don't know, man. It looks like he's struggling. He's regressed a little bit. So, tough game. I mean, Ole Miss has been playing a little bit better defensively over the last few weeks. I think with Kewan Lacey running the ball, and how good he's been this season for the Rebels. What I'm saying? He's a problem. 16 touchdowns, one of the best, I think, in the nation right now. And they got a quarterback that don't really turn over the ball. Say what you want about his completion rate, but Trinidad Chambers don't put the ball in harm's way. And he has so many receivers. Wallace III, right? Caden Lee, You look at Hilton Deuce Alexander. Like he got so many weapons that to where it makes it really tough. So I think Ole Miss rolls. In this one, I think they beat Florida pretty good. Uh, Big time passing game, and they can run the ball at a high rate. And I think Ole Miss for once is in the driver's seat. I think they should be able to make a CFP, well, deservingly so. Only lost to Georgia, and this is a real deal team, and it's going to be exciting. All they got to do is handle business in their last 3 games. They should be able to punch their ticket to a CFP playoff. Well deserved first time, I think, in Ole Miss history they've been able to make a CFP. They should be able to. And it starts with getting a win against Florida at home. Obviously at Rebel Stadium. Do what you need to do, but Ole Miss should roll. All right, y'all. Final game to conclude the show. We got to talk about it, man. I'm super excited, man, about this one. I'm calling upset, man. I got Georgia winning this game. Let's see how the betting lines got it. Georgia's favorite 59.8 compared to 40.2 according to analytics. ESPN Bet has Texas as a 5.5 against the spread, so they are an underdog. So that's the latest there, man, in terms of the spread and everything. But this is a good game, man. I can't wait. I told y'all I've been seeing it. I think Arch is back. I think he really found his rhythm, obviously, in that game against Mississippi State. 38-21. He did get hurt in that game, but no way in hell they should have won. I think that was the change for Texas as a football team and as a program. And I think they're going to be dangerous moving forward. And I think this is a game that they can certainly win over the Bulldogs, right? Arch keeps playing well. The defense you've seen for Georgia, especially in the secondary, is a little bit susceptible, right? Maybe they've shored that up, but when I watched them, I'm saying a couple times this season, you can hit it off against them, right? Best players, obviously, KJ Bowen on that back end, but can those corners, Dalen Everett, some of those guys on the outside, can they hold up against Texas wide receivers? Not getting these ain't the receivers they've had in the past, right? But one thing is Ryan Wingo's finding his groove, right? Parker Livingstone is steady. You know what I'm saying? Can they use more of the tight ends? My concern, Georgia has struggled this year creating pressure on the quarterback. Can the Texas offensive line protect Archer enough to give him time to survey the defense and be able to cook them? You know what I'm saying? They've struggled a little bit there in terms of protecting the quarterback, which has led to the early season struggles. Can you do enough to protect your franchise quarterback and allow him to survey the defense? But it starts with a running game. Lean on Contravian Wisner. Allow him to tote the rock, do what he needs to do, and set the play action off of that. But you're going to need your receivers to win on the outside. Livingstone, Wingo. You need these guys to win on the outside and at a high level if you want a chance to beat Georgia. And I think getting out to a decent start if you're Texas, right? Playing with some momentum early on in the game. Making easy throws and reads for Arch Manning against a pretty good, defense. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be interesting. But I like Texas a lot in this one. But Georgia, I like what Gunnar Stockton's been doing this year, man. He's been phenomenal. I told y'all, I think he's the best quarterback to come through Georgia in the last decade. Humbly, I believe that. I think he's better than Carson Beck. You know what I'm saying? I think he's obviously better than Stetson Bennett. That's just my thoughts. Kid is unflappable, always plays at a high level. Kid is the absolute stud. And then you got Chauncey Bowens, Nate Frazier, and those boys on the backfield where you can kind of rotate a little bit. Every guy stays fresh. Georgia's been doing that for quite some time and some years, which makes them a really good football team. And they got weapons galore, right? Excuse me. And some of their weapons is hurt, right? Ethan Barbour lost for the season. Taylor has been dealing with an injury, but they still got Zachariah Branch, Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky, right? So many guys on that outside that can cook you and cook you all day and all night long, right? So Georgia definitely has a formidable offense. And they're going to have to make sure Texas, the defense, slows them down. Now, that starts with Michael Taft, Anthony Hill Jr., Colin Simmons, right? Garrison Littleton. Like, that starts with them being able to tackle a lot of open space. If you want to ever beat a Georgia team, you look at some of the ones the other ones did. Slow down the running game. Make it tough. Not saying Gunner can't do it, because Gunner's shown he can light you up and slice and dice you, whether he has a running game or not. You got to be able to slow down the running game and create some pressure, create some havoc, run some stunts, run different things to kind of throw them off their game. If you could do that, if you Texas, you definitely have a chance in this game. Now, it ain't going to be easy, you know what I'm saying, because Georgia, they've been defending Athens. First loss, I think, in over like 30-plus games when they lost to Alabama at home. They just don't lose at home. It's one of those rare teams. They don't lose at home. They always handle their business, and they always play at a high level. And they're very resilient. Like, Texas can jump out to a 24-0 lead. They love that gas pedal like how they did against Vanderbilt. Georgia going to come back and win the game. You can't do it with Georgia. You got to put your foot on their neck for 4 quarters. 4 quarters because they're just resilient. They've been there, they've done that. It's innate in their culture. It's innate from their head coach that disseminates throughout the team. And once you try to start to do that, you ain't gonna beat this team. So for Texas, I like them in this game. I think the Longhorns built something special. Arch finally they figured it out, and I think this is a game he shows in the whole world. Like, oh wow, well, we need to stop sleeping on Arch. Like, even though he was overhyped a little bit to begin the season, Arch is that guy. Arch has figured it out, and I'm telling y'all, the game he figured it out was Mississippi State. I'm just letting y'all boys know. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going with Texas. Major win over the Bulldogs, man. I'm going to go 31-21 victory. They pull away with a late touchdown. It's going to be 24-21. They get back in the game. Georgia makes a 14-point comeback. But Texas goes on a long 10-play plus drive that eats 7 minutes of clock. Finishes off Georgia 31-21 right before the end of the game. That's what I'm rolling with, man. So Texas on top over Georgia. All right, y'all. So there y'all have it, man. That is this week's preview. Again, a little 30-minute special after dark, after the lights, man. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Seen a couple people tuned in. I'm going to post all the previews tomorrow. So hope y'all boys enjoy it. And I appreciate y'all always for love and support. Make sure you like, comment, and share. And I should be back soon, man. And y'all just keep me in your prayers, man. Dealing with a lot of stuff. So it's been hard to come and want to talk. But trying to supply y'all, man. Y'all been supporting, running up the channel. I appreciate y'all, and I love y'all, man. Thank y'all so much. Enjoy y'all night.